Hi, I'm Sloan, and I've learned the hard way that family doesn't always stab you in the back. Sometimes they send a group text. It came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 days before Thanksgiving. The notification buzzed while I was on hold with the caterer, finalizing the vegan side dishes my sister demanded. 6 messages, a new group name, just us for the holidays. I should have known. The first thing I saw wasn't even a greeting. It was a passive-aggressive gif of someone popping champagne. Then came the words, "So slight change in plans. Sloane's energy might not be the right vibe this year. Don't take it personally. We just want peace and gratitude. Hope you understand." That was it. No call, no conversation, just a group vote, and apparently I'd lost. I blinked. The caterer asked if I still wanted to proceed with the sweet potato stacks. I said yes, even though I was no longer invited to the dinner I paid for. Because here's the punchline no one mentions when they disinvite you, like you're some unwanted ghost at the table. I paid for the damn house. I fronted $6,000 to reserve a lakeside Airbnb months in advance. Early bird discount, no refund. I covered the deposit, the cleaning fee, even the firewood bundle add-on because my mom said it would feel more like fall. And now I wasn't welcome on the porch I rented. The lake house was my idea. I'd found it on a chilly Sunday afternoon in August, scrolling through listings while sipping bad coffee in my apartment. The reviews called it serene. The photos showed pine trees, stone fireplaces, big windows that framed the sky like a painting. It looked like something out of a magazine, or at least something that might make everyone stop bickering for one goddamn day. And for once, I wanted to be the reason something worked. So I sent the link to the group chat. My sister Danny replied cute, which is how she responds to everything she half likes. My brother Ryan said dope. Mom said, if we split it maybe. That was the only green light I needed. They never split it. I covered the whole thing. Told them to just Venmo me later. That was 10 weeks ago. The only payment I ever got was from my cousin Lex, and it was a Starbucks gift card she clearly got from work. But I didn't push. I told myself this year would be different. It was. Just not the way I thought. I stared at the phone. My thumb hovered over the message, like touching it too long might make it worse. In a weird way, I wasn't even angry yet. Just quiet. Like my body was waiting for my brain to catch up. Then the next message came through. From Danny. This isn't about you, Sloan. Don't make it dramatic. We just want to be surrounded by people who keep things light this year. You know? I let out a slow laugh, the kind that makes your stomach hurt after. Light, I whispered, as if I'd been the weight dragging them down, as if I hadn't spent weeks organizing grocery lists, confirming arrival times, mapping sleeping arrangements so my aunt's sciatica wouldn't flare up on the futon, as if I hadn't booked the house using my own savings from a canceled trip to Sedona, as if I hadn't been the one holding this whole messy group together while they bickered about politics, gluten, and who left the group chat that one time. I wasn't dramatic. I was tired. That night, I sat on my apartment floor with a glass of wine and every receipt printed out in front of me. I added it up twice, $6,324.17, and they had the audacity to vote me out. No refund, no apology. I opened my laptop, pulled up the Airbnb listing, and stared at the Modify Reservation button. I hovered, then clicked. I didn't cancel the booking. That would be petty. What I did instead was surgical. I changed the check-in code, removed their names from the guest list, sent a brief note to the host. Plans changed. Traveling solo now. I poured another glass of wine. They weren't going to see it coming. Wednesday morning, 8:47 a.m. Danny called. First time in a month. No text warning, no emoji buffer. Just her name flashing across my screen like it wanted to fight. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Hello? What the hell, Sloan? She snapped. Hi to you too. We just got here and the code doesn't work. Oh, I said. That's odd. Did you cancel it? Nope. Then why can't we get in? Because, I said, standing in my kitchen with a towel still wrapped around my wet hair. I changed the code, since, I'm not invited. A pause, then, you can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. You voted. I listened. You're being spiteful. No, Danny, I'm being precise. By noon, the group chat was on fire. Ryan wrote, WTF is wrong with you? My mom sent a voice message I didn't play. My aunt called and left a voicemail that started calm and ended in a scream about ruining the only time we all get together. But here's the part no one talks about when you set boundaries. It's not the silence that follows. It's the sound of everyone scrambling when they realize you're no longer playing your role. The thing is, it wasn't even about Thanksgiving. Not really. It was about every other time they made me feel like a guest in my own family and expected me to be grateful for the invitation. It started small, like these things always do. A seat at the end of the table, a missing name on a group card, a birthday dinner that somehow got rescheduled until it just never happened. But over time, those small things stack like bricks. And if you're not careful, they become walls. I stared out my apartment window the next morning, watching fog roll off the rooftops. My phone buzzed. Another call from my mom. Declined. I let the silence settle. The last time I tried to explain how it felt to be the only one who showed up for the family but was always forgotten. My mom said I was reading too much into things. She said it like empathy was an optional elective I failed. I remember it clearly. It was last Christmas. I had driven 5 hours through snow to make it in time for dinner, my trunk packed with gifts I'd spent weeks budgeting for. When I walked in, everyone looked surprised, like they'd already written me out of the scene. No one helped carry the bags. No one asked how the drive was. Danny barely looked up from her wine. "You made it," she said, like I'd dropped by unannounced. When they started handing out presents, they skipped me, said they'd do mine later. Later never came. And when I brought it up that night, quietly, because God forbid I ruin the vibe, my mother blinked like I'd spoken another language. "It's not that deep, Sloan," she said. "Don't make it weird." So no, Thanksgiving wasn't the first time they erased me. It was just the first time I finally saw it clearly. It was the first time I stopped hoping they'd see it too. Around noon, I got a text from Lex. "Heard what happened. Just so you know, I don't agree with them." I stared at the message for a long time, not because I didn't believe her, but because I didn't know what to do with kindness that came too late. Still, I replied, "Thanks." She sent back a broken heart emoji. It didn't fix anything, but it softened the edge. That afternoon, I drove out to the lake house. Not to stay, just to see. Just to witness the fallout. The roads curved through tall trees and wet leaves. Cold mist kissed the windshield. It was quiet in that beautiful, haunted kind of way. When I pulled into the gravel driveway, I saw Danny's car, Ryan's rental, my parents' SUV, parked like they had a right to be there. But they didn't. They were standing outside, huddled in confusion, luggage by their feet. My mom had a scarf pulled tight around her neck. Danny paced the porch, phone to her ear. Ryan sat on the hood of the car, kicking gravel like a teenager denied entry to a concert. I didn't get out of the car. I didn't wave. I just watched. And then, I backed out of the drive and left. Later that evening, the voicemail started again. First Mom. "Sloan, sweetheart, this has gone too far. You don't need to punish everyone just because your feelings were hurt." Then Ryan. "I don't know what your deal is, but this is messed up." Then finally, Danny. Her voice was brittle. "You really think this is some kind of win? You think making everyone stand outside with their kids is revenge? Grow up." I listened to her message 3 times, and on the 4th time I laughed. Because she didn't get it. It wasn't about revenge. It was about removal. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just done hurting for them. Around midnight, I poured another glass of wine and pulled out the old notebook from my desk drawer. Inside were receipts, literal and emotional, the invoice for the lake house, a list of what I'd paid for Danny's bridal shower 3 years ago when she forgot to reimburse me, a screenshot of Ryan's texts from last year asking for rent money, then ghosting me for months. My mother's email with the subject line, "Can you send another check? You know how important this is to us." Each entry was a scar I disguised as generosity. I flipped to the back page, wrote in bold ink, "What happens when the reliable one stops being available?" And underneath it, "They don't apologize, they panic." I didn't sleep that night, not because I was angry, because for the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain. Not to them, not to myself. I wasn't being dramatic. I was finally being accurate. Let's just say, not everyone in Sloane's family is only guilty of emotional neglect. There's something eerie about watching people try to act normal after they've burned you. Like when a thief shows up at your door asking if you've seen their missing wallet. That's what Danny sounded like 2 days after Thanksgiving when she called, again, as if nothing had happened. "Sloane," she said, her voice chipper and flat, like a barista pretending to care about your weekend. "Mom's planning to host Christmas at the house. We figured you'd want to know." No apology. No mention of the fact that they'd locked me out of the holiday I paid for, then stood in the cold for hours because I revoked their access. Just Christmas. As if we were all good again. I didn't answer right away. I let the pause stretch. Then I asked, "Whose house?" A beat. "What? You said Mom's hosting? In my house? The one I co-signed 3 years ago when her credit was shot?" She went quiet. I could hear her swallow. "Sloane, don't start." I didn't. I ended the call. See, when I said this wasn't about Thanksgiving anymore, I meant it. This was about the slow, calculated way people take from you while pretending they're helping you carry the load. And the worst part? You thank them for it, because you've been trained to. 3 years ago, after Dad left and the bank threatened foreclosure, I offered to help. Not just emotionally, legally. I used my credit to refinance their mortgage, took on joint liability, signed documents that made me responsible for a house I didn't live in, because we're family, and you're the only one who understands paperwork. They said they'd take care of the payments. I should have asked for it in writing. I pulled up my banking app that afternoon and checked the joint account. Balance, $43.72, which was odd, considering I deposited $5,000 into it 3 months ago to help them get caught up. I scrolled through the statements. There it was, Danny's name. Over and over again. Beauty Lab, Peloton subscription, Uber Eats. One charge from a boutique hotel in Palm Springs. I stared at the screen, cold creeping into my chest. Then I opened the shared mortgage site. 2 payments missed. Third one marked, final notice. They weren't just lying to me. They were putting my credit, my future, on the line, all while pretending I was the problem. That night I pulled out my receipts again. Only this time I started a spreadsheet. I wasn't planning revenge. I was building documentation. Every dollar, every transfer, every signed document, every email where I was told not to stress. And then, because part of me still wanted to be wrong, I called my mom. She picked up on the 3rd ring. "Sloane? Hi." Pause. "Everything okay?" "I checked the account," I said. "And the mortgage." Silence. "I'm seeing late notices and personal charges." She sighed, and I felt it in my bones before she said a word. "Danny needed help. She's been struggling, and we thought, well, since you've been doing so well." "So you used my money and let the house go into default?" "We were going to catch up." I felt it. That low burn behind my ribs, grief and rage holding hands. "You didn't even tell me. We didn't want to worry you," she said, as if worry was a gift they were protecting me from, as if I wasn't the one carrying everything already. I ended the call without a goodbye, and for the first time in years, I emailed an attorney, not to sue, not yet, just to understand what I could take back. 2 days later, I got an email from my mortgage portal. "Sloane Blake has requested access to full payment history." I stared at it and smiled. They thought I was still playing by old rules. What they didn't know was I had stopped waiting for an apology. I was moving on to accountability. Ever had someone smile while putting weight on your shoulders? Just wondering how many of us have stories that start like that. There's a moment between betrayal and action that's oddly still. Not quiet, not peaceful, just still. Like the air right before a storm hits and everything holds its breath. I lived in that stillness for exactly 4 days. 4 days where I answered no calls, ignored every text, and filled my walls with printed statements, legal notices, and flagged emails. I'd never seen betrayal so clearly. It looked like line items and overdraft fees, like signed PDFs and unchecked voicemail transcriptions. And then I got the email that broke the stillness. Subject: escrow review, discrepancy in ownership declaration. I read it twice, Then a third time. Someone, either Mom or Danny, had submitted paperwork to refinance the house again, without telling me, without my signature, and they'd forged my part of it. I called my attorney that night. His name was Marcus Chang. Calm voice, clean sentences, the kind of guy who could deliver bad news with surgical clarity. "I'm going to send you a document," I told him, "and you're going to tell me I'm not insane." He took a breath. "I'm listening." I forwarded him the file, then waited. When he came back on, his voice was tight. "That's your signature." "No, it's not." He was quiet. "I know what this means," I said. "Yes," he replied. "It means we stop talking, and we start writing." The next morning I drove to my mother's house. I didn't go to yell. I went to serve. Not legally, not yet. That was coming. This was more ceremonial. I walked up the familiar front steps, knocked twice, and waited. When the door opened, Mom blinked like she'd seen a ghost. "Sloan, I need 10 minutes. "Now's not really a—" I walked in without waiting. Her living room still smelled like cinnamon potpourri and denial. Danny was on the couch, curled up in leggings and that smug little hoodie she wore when she wanted to look humble. She looked up and froze. "Oh, you. Good to see you too," I said, flat. I dropped the folder onto the coffee table. It landed with a satisfying thud. "What's this?" Mom asked, her voice already defensive. "Receipts," I said. "Literal and figurative." She picked it up, flipped through a few pages, then paled. "You went through the account?" "No, I went through my account. That I opened, that I funded, that you both used like it was your personal ATM. Danny scoffed. "This is so dramatic." "Is it? Because forging my signature to access equity you didn't earn? That's not drama. That's fraud." Silence. "I never forged," Danny started. I pulled out a hard copy of the digital signature verification. It wasn't just mismatched. It was cloned from an old lease I'd signed, down to the pixel. "You're not even good at lying," I said, which is funny considering how often you do it. "Sloan," Mom said, shaking her head, "you're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I said. "You're just used to me not reacting. That's different." She opened her mouth again, and I held up a hand. "I'm not here to talk it out. I'm here to tell you that I know, and that I'm done, and that there's paperwork on its way." "What kind of paperwork?" Danny asked, trying to sound unimpressed, but I saw her leg bounce under the blanket. "The kind that removes me from the mortgage," I said, "and demands repayment for every dime taken without consent. The kind that comes from people who no longer confuse boundaries with disrespect." Mom's voice dropped low. "You wouldn't actually—" "You thought I wouldn't show up at Thanksgiving," I said. "That was your first mistake." When I turned to leave, Danny called out behind me, voice high and sharp. "You're just doing this because you're bitter and alone." I stopped in the doorway, let the words land, then turned, slow and deliberate. "No, I'm doing this because I'm finally alone enough to hear myself think, and what I hear is, never again." That night, I slept harder than I had in months. No bad dreams, just clean silence. The kind that comes when you know the storm has already started. And this time, you're the one holding the lightning. I didn't expect Lex to show up at my door. She was the cousin who always floated on the periphery, just close enough to be in the family photos, just far enough not to speak up when the air turned sharp. But that morning, I opened my door to find her standing there, holding a paper bag and looking more serious than I'd ever seen her. "I brought bagels," she said. "Didn't realize we were at that level," I replied, stepping aside. She walked in like she'd been rehearsing the moment for weeks. We sat in silence for a bit, both of us picking at our food without saying much. Then she said it. "I read the group chat, the one from Thanksgiving, before they changed the name." My heart didn't jump. It just nodded, like it had been expecting her. "I figured you had," I said. She put the bagel down, wiped her hands. "They were awful." "They've always been awful," I said. "You just never had to notice before." She looked away. "I noticed. I just didn't want to be next." There was something about hearing that out loud that cracked something open in the room, like we'd both agreed, silently, to stop pretending this family was something it wasn't. "They said you were overreacting," she added. "Of course they did." "And then they started telling people you'd had some kind of breakdown." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly scripted. If they couldn't control me, they'd control the narrative. That tracks. Lex leaned forward. Sloane, I'm sorry. I should have said something years ago. I knew how they treated you. I just kept my head down. I don't blame you, I said. That's how survival works in this family. Whoever doesn't cause waves stays dry. She pulled something from her purse, her phone, and hesitated. There's something else. I looked at her. They started a new group chat after you left. No one thought I'd still be in it. They just renamed the old one and kept talking. I raised an eyebrow. She handed me her phone. I read every message, slowly. If she wants to blow up her life, fine, but she's not taking us down with her. She's acting like she's the victim, as if she didn't always play the martyr. We need to start documenting things too, just in case she goes legal. And then this, from my mother. We'll just say she offered, that she was trying to be generous. Who's going to prove otherwise? I handed the phone back, my hands warm. Thank you, I said. She looked at me carefully. I'll testify if it comes to that. I mean it. I'll say what I saw, what I've always seen. I believed her. For the first time in years, someone in my family didn't just see me. They stood with me, and that changes everything. That night, I drafted an email. I attached screenshots, timelines, and documents. Then I hit send to Marcus Chang. Subject: Evidence Addendum. Group conspiracy and defamation. By the end of the week, I heard from Marcus. We're officially moving forward, he said. What they said in those messages? That's not just toxic, it's strategic. They were trying to frame a narrative. Let them try, I replied. I've got the truth. And Lex? He asked. She's ready. Good. This won't just be about the money anymore. It's going to be about the pattern. 2 days later, Danny's Instagram went quiet. The curated brunch shots, the family selfies, all gone. In their place, a single vague post, taking a break from social, too much negativity lately, just trying to protect my peace. I didn't comment, but I screenshotted it. Because sometimes people hide behind peace when what they really fear is exposure. Ever had someone apologize, not with words, but by finally standing beside you? The first fallout didn't come through a lawyer. It came through LinkedIn. I was halfway through making lunch when a notification popped up. Danny updated her profile. Curious, I clicked. She had removed all job titles, erased her marketing role, scrubbed any affiliation with the boutique PR firm she once posted about like it was her personality. At first, I thought nothing of it, until my phone rang. Marcus. They're in damage control, he said without preamble. Danny's employer was contacted anonymously. Copies of the forged documents, the timeline, the group chat messages. Was it you? No, but someone did it clean. No metadata, no IP trace. Lex. I didn't say it aloud, but I knew. That afternoon, Danny called me. Her voice didn't sound like Danny, not the version I grew up with anyway. It was thinner, exhausted, stripped of her usual armor. Sloane. Yes. I lost my job. Silence. I figured. You don't even care, do you? I leaned back against the counter, the sound of the fridge humming behind me. Tell me why I should. Because I'm your sister. I let that hang in the air between us, then said quietly, No, you were just someone who shared my parents. Later that week, Mom showed up at my door, uninvited. She stood there in her beige cardigan and desperation. I just want to talk. I didn't move. We've already talked. This isn't about the mortgage, she said, or the money. This is about what you're doing to this family. I blinked. What I'm doing? She stepped forward. You've turned Lex against us. You've embarrassed Danny. You've made us into villains. You made yourselves into villains, I said. I just stopped editing the footage. She broke then, not into tears. Those were easy. She broke in the voice, the slight tremble, the twitch of her left eye. I didn't know, she said. Didn't know what? That it went this far. You signed off on it. I thought she had your blessing. No, you hoped I'd stay quiet. She looked at me like I'd just pulled the thread on the entire family sweater. You always do, she whispered. Not anymore. There was a long silence. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out something I hadn't expected. A letter. From my father. Unopened, folded. A single name written on the front, Sloan. I hadn't seen him in years. Not since he left. Not since he remarried and moved 3 states away. What is this? He sent it before the refinance. I never gave it to you. Why? She hesitated. Because I was afraid it would make you leave. I stared at her. I was already gone, I said. After she left, I sat on the couch, the letter still in my hand. I didn't open it right away. I just looked at it, wondering if it was apology, explanation, or something worse. Eventually, I unfolded it. It was handwritten, crisp, too neat to be spontaneous. Sloan, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I heard what they were planning. About the house, the refinance, the favor they expect. You don't owe them anything. You never did. You were the one who kept this family stitched together, and when they saw the seams coming undone, they blamed the thread instead of the ones who pulled it. Walk away if you must. Just know it doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. Dad. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. What I felt was validation. Too late to matter. Just in time to finish what I started. Sometimes the hardest part isn't being right. It's realizing you were always right and no one wanted to hear it. It didn't end with a courtroom. It ended with a notary, a file folder, and a signature that no one saw coming. 2 weeks after the letter, Marcus called to say the withdrawal paperwork was finalized. My name, legally removed from the house, no longer tied to the mortgage, no longer responsible for a cent of the debt they'd built on my back. They'll still owe the bank, he said. But you're clean. You're out. And the repayment terms? They've been served. If they don't respond in 30 days, we escalate. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Thank you, I said. And thank your paralegal. She color-coded the tabs. He laughed. You're the first client to say that. I didn't tell anyone what I planned next. Not Lex, not even Marcus, because the final move wasn't about retribution, it was about legacy. I mailed the envelope the day after Christmas, thick ivory paper, a handwritten note on top. To whom it concerns, attached is the revised ownership record of the family home, excluding my name and responsibility. Also enclosed, the bank statements, screenshots, and proof of signature fraud, already submitted to legal counsel and third-party review. No further contact is required. All correspondence will go through representation. This is not revenge. This is what it looks like when the reliable one retires. Sloan. I didn't check for responses. I changed my number. Deleted the old group chat, blocked everyone but Lex. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. They taught me to be quiet. I taught them what silence costs. 3 weeks later, I flew to Vermont. Not for court, not for confrontation. To sign the closing papers on a cabin I'd found months earlier, back when I thought I'd take a break in the fall, but got erased from Thanksgiving instead. It was small. Wood everywhere. Firewood stacked against the wall. No smart lock, no security cameras, just space. Mine. Lex came up to visit a week later. We drank wine on the porch, the sky pink with early frost. You did it, she said, looking around. I did. Any regrets? I shook my head. I regret staying as long as I did, hoping they'd choose me back. She nodded, then asked, So what now? I looked at the trees, the sky, the quiet. I rebuild, I said, not a house, a life. Ever walked away so clean they thought you disappeared, when really you just finally showed up for yourself? Sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I used to think loyalty meant staying, even when it hurt. But what I've learned is this. The people who truly care won't make you prove your worth through silence or sacrifice. You don't have to destroy others to choose yourself. You just have to stop handing them the match. If you've ever been the one holding things together while falling apart, maybe this story was meant for you. Have you ever left quietly and found yourself louder in peace? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Where are you watching from? And what part of this hit home for you? And hey, if this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. We've got more stories. Raw, real, and maybe a little too honest. Let's heal together.